Let's talk about why you were due to come on here, which is the eco-warriors, who, obviously, amongst their many targets, the Just Stop Oil protesters attacked the World Snooker Championship. Let's take a look.
Terrible scenes here at the Crucible.
So I was on air when this happened, and it was pretty shocking for everybody there. Obviously, people watching on television. It was designed to shock. It was designed to get our attention. First of all, what was your reaction when you saw this?
Well, annoyance, obviously, you could imagine. I've got paying customers, normal working-class people that have saved up. To get a ticket, by the way, in the Crucible to watch the snooker is not easy. Sells out already, next year's already sold out. These people have been lucky enough, they've got a ticket, they're in place, ready to enjoy their special moment, and it was spoilt by someone. My secondary thought really was, this is nothing to do with Just Stop Oil, because it didn't do their cause any good at all. In fact, it was the opposite. I think it damaged their cause.
It made me want to go and buy oil.
Well, it made me not want to give anything. You know, as individuals, we give to lots of different charities or different... there's no way. They may well have a case, by the way, ecologically speaking, but by doing that, I think they cheapen themselves into sort of the bully boys of sport, because sport is such an easy target, Piers. You know, you can't... I mean, I believe in security. I think we've got good security. We have for 40 years.
But I don't see why wrecking the fun for ordinary people. Many of them are working-class people who've spent all year saving up to go to this. It's their big annual event.
How does that put across their point? The answer is it doesn't at all. If anything, it's a huge negative to them. And working-class people and ordinary people everywhere in the world would look on that with disdain. And they wouldn't look at it and say, well, let's look into this Just Stop Oil principle. They look at it and saw a rich kid getting some attention by doing something that's actually really easy to do. It's a bit of bully boy tactics. They bought a ticket. I think they paid 300 quid for their ticket. They bought a top-class ticket with all the trimmings and went out and spoilt everyone's enjoyment for the night.
You're now going to sue Just Stop Oil activist Edred Whittingham, who was the guy we saw there. Tell me about that.
Well, it's interesting because I was frustrated. I mean, I was frustrated when I spent 2.5 hours on the M25 in a junction. That's another time, another story. But the same principle applies. It's putting ordinary people, you know, out of pocket or out of place. I'm frustrated about what can I do? Do I make the whole place into a fortress of security and take away that very special atmosphere that exists at Crucible? I don't want to do that. It's never been necessary before. I've had 2 streakers. We got rid of them quite quickly. But they weren't the same. They were just extroverts. Here we've got a situation where we sat down as a group and said, what do we do? Do we tighten security? Do we make it really body search, everybody coming? Is that what sport's really about now? My book says no. So I'm trying to think how I can be, you know, constructive in how we can deal with it. And we come up with this idea of the small claims court. Because we thought, well, you know, all these people have spent their money on a ticket, on their hotels, on their travel, maybe babysitters, whatever. So I wrote to the 410 people that witnessed that and lost their table that they were supposed to be watching and said, look, I believe you've got a claim. We will help you. We will help you formulate this. Let's take this little boy, this attention-seeking little boy, let's ruin his life. Let's take him to the small claims court as many times as possible. I wrote to 410 people. 64 have come back and said, yes, we'd like to be part of this. So now our lawyers are working with them and saying, how do we help you? 64 different cases in the small claims court where he will be expected to make an appearance.
I like this because this will really get to the heart of these people.
Yes.
If they actually have to suffer that kind of sacrifice.
Well,
they might think twice about the way they protest. I've got no problem in people doing normal, peaceful protest.
None at all.
But when they deliberately wreck things which other people are enjoying, or they're stopping people going to work or whatever, they lose me.
They're not putting a point across. They're just disruptive for disruption's sake. They're attention seekers that are not actually saying, believe in this. We have a system in this country, it's called a democracy. It's not anarchy. This is a democracy, and there are ways of putting your point across. They chose to ignore it, and we have to take action. I see the protesters at the Dartford Tunnel got 3.5 years and 2.5 years. That's another one I'm thoroughly in favour of.
Yeah.
You know, I was in a traffic jam for 2.5 hours next to an ambulance trying to get through.
It's outrageous.
You know, a woman 3 cars away was in tears because she missed her father's funeral.
Yeah, disgusting.
You know, so what do? You can't just stand back. In our small way, we thought, let's just disrupt his life
Yeah.
as much as he's disrupted others. And there are 64 letters going out.
And
He'll
by the
get
way,
them.
in a perfectly peaceful manner.
Totally.
He's just going to get a load of writs, and it will cost him a load of money, hopefully.
I don't really care about the money. I want to give him some inconvenience.
Yes, quite right. Barry, I could talk to you all night. Just give me one little thing. My team, Arsenal, choked, in my opinion, the Premier League. There were 8 points clear, 8 games to go. Do you agree with me?
No. Look, I had 19 years as chairman of Leyton Orient. I know all about football, not at your level.
Yeah, but your expectation level was lower.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? And you're judging it on expectation level rather than reality. The reality is they're professional sportsmen, they're trained to win, and they're proud.
Is it fair that Manchester City have all this oil money, which allows them to have a grotesque financial advantage over everybody else?
There's 123 claims against them for them to justify and fight. This saga will run longer than Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap. It's going to go on forever. But at the end of the day, Arsenal, and I know you don't want this because you're through blue at Arsenal, at the end of the day, they weren't quite good enough.
You see, I don't agree. I just don't think they weren't mentally strong enough. They didn't believe
But that
they could
may
be
be
champions.
part of being not quite good enough.
They needed to be more like Michael Block. They needed to believe they belonged on the top stage.
No, they've got to do it over 40-odd games throughout a season in front of a very good, wherever the money's come from will be an issue answered later. But for the moment, hats off to Manchester City. They are one of the greats of my lifetime.
They are. They're a good team. All right, great to see you.
Always a pleasure, Miles.
Piers.
Miles. It's Miles and Miles. Where are we going?
I actually have a mate called Miles. He'd be pleased about that. You're thinking talking about him. Good to see you.
Thanks, mate.